Good evening. Welcome to NUFC Matters. It is the three amigos, your perfect start to a Newcastle United weekend with me, Keith Patterson, George, Steve Hasty, and Mitch. Good to see you guys. And this is a pre-recorded show, which we've done on Thursday. I couldn't do it live on Friday. So thanks for joining us tonight, lads, and making the effort. And as always, plenty to talk about as a Newcastle United fan. And we don't often talk about players. We usually get tied up in politics or things happening here, there, and everywhere. But just looking at the transfer window, and at the time of recording this, it's been confirmed, obviously, that Karius has extended his stay at St James's Park, which will keep him here for the rest of the season. He was a free agent, of course, when he joined Newcastle back in September as cover for Nick Pope, when Carl Darlow, if you remember, sustained an ankle injury. Martin Dubravka, though, did come back earlier this month from his loan spell at Manchester United. The decision to retain Karius possibly indicates now that the fit Darlow, his days on Tyneside probably are numbered, along with Mark Gillespie. The latter, of course, is a free agent this summer. The other news, which may well now be confirmed when you're watching this on Friday, is that Chris Wood, the 31-year-old New Zealand striker, is likely now to be at Nottingham Forest on a loan deal. And the transfer window, Keith, it's been very quiet. Eddie Howe told us it was going to be quiet. He said he would, he would look at what was going on, in and around the squad, what with injuries and suspensions, and how the team had played after the World Cup. But things starting to move now, and one would imagine that maybe the next 2 weeks might be slightly busier.
You just get a feeling that you get a real feeling. I think what I like the most about it is that the people who claim to know don't know. Nobody knows what's going on, and that's what I like about Newcastle these days is that the safest policy is just to tell people you know nothing at all. Even if you do get told something, it's best just to pretend you don't. But when you look at our club, you don't. Eddie Howe doesn't let Chris Wood, who's been named in the squad every week and who's played an active role in the squad this year. They wouldn't let a lad like him go, who's I want to put on record tonight before people not what that lad's done exactly what he came to do. He kept us up. He's absolutely worked his nads off to give his all for Newcastle. So I hope that he goes down to Forest, and I hope he keeps them up. I hope he gets another big payday, 31-year-old, because if he does, Forest can't be accused of not giving it a go. They've given a right crack to stay in the Premier League. You see a lot of people come to the Premier League and they come in, they drop out without so much making an effort. But you can't accuse that of Forest. You know what I mean? They've put some real big names in that team. And by God, they've put numbers in as well. So I hope it works for the lad. I hope he does well. And he goes with my blessing that he came and did what he came to do, which was to keep us up. When he joined our squad, we were threadbare up front. When you look now, though, and I remember that last cup game, when you've got Wilson starting and you've got ASM and Isaac coming off the bench, we're starting to get the kind of strength and the kind of optimism that we want. So for me, it'll be harder and harder for him to get games, because if you bring who's going to drop out, and the rumor is that there'll be a younger striker coming in. So it's all exciting times, but. One guy said to us today, he said, if we were going to Wembley today and he was our number 9, Wilson and Isaac weren't about, he said, I'd be worried. And I said, fair play, because he was talking about purely finishing and things. And maybe he isn't your first choice centre forward you want if you're in the top 4, which we are. But I think he's done a cracking job. When it comes to the goalkeeper situation, I think that's more complicated by the fact that a lot of people have said, a few on Twitter today said Dubravka should go, not Darlow. Dubravka can go to any English club this year. Dubravka can only go abroad. But the story I've got from trusted sources that Newcastle aren't finished with the goalkeeper, and I think that next year you'll see a different setup. If you said to me, are you happy with Pope in goal, Dubravka and Karius? I think, of course I am. I think we've got 3 Premier League goalkeepers. I think they're great. But I do think it's time for Gillespie and Darlow to move. So I am happy that the club are doing that. But I don't think they're finished in the goalkeeping area. I think Newcastle will possibly make another change in the summer. And I think it'll be in the summer when it comes. But going into cup final, if we could get there, going into Champions League qualification, I'm delighted. I don't worry about goalkeepers at all. I think in them 3 lads, we've got 3 cracking keepers. Now, I have a lot of confidence in Karius from what I've seen. He looked brilliant in the game in Saudi. But Dubravka's a very able deputy, and Nick Pope's a bit special. So happy days for me, and I think there'll be a couple of big signs to come. I just can't see us not bringing 2 more players in. I think we'll bring another kid in as well. So I'm still hopeful there's 3 more to join. So let's just wait and see.
Obviously, we're pre-recording this show, but Chris Wood has now moved to Nottingham Forest. It has been made official. Plenty of the media outlets putting everything up there now, and it's with an option to buy at the end of the season. But I just want to say as well, thanks to Chris Wood for everything he's done at Newcastle United, because ultimately he played a huge part in keeping Newcastle United in the Premier League, and that should never ever be forgotten, because that really has catapulted this into where we are now. And some of the performances this season been good as well. Yes, people will always point to the fact that there was a £25 million fee, not his fault. They'll also point to the misses in recent weeks at Sheffield Wednesday and Leeds in particular, which ultimately could have changed or won the games. But you know what? That's not what it's all about. It's about a commitment to the side from the guy who was committed to playing in a particular role, which he wasn't used to. He used to play in front, in a 4-4-2 at Burnley, and banged in lots of goals down there. Probably did the same at Leeds as well. But from my perspective, well done, Chris Wood. Thank you very much. Good luck at Forest. I hope it works out for you. George, your views on the transfers. I mean, Karius commits and Wood exits.
Yeah. Well, both good news as far as I'm concerned. One, because I like Karius, what I've seen of him. I'm glad he's on the payroll and in the dressing room. And on Chris Wood, well, I want to wish him well as well. I don't mind admitting that on here, as I have on other platforms, that I'm a Chris Wood fan. And why? Because you look back at what Eddie Howe was saying about them all last year when we were struggling, how he filled in when so people went missing. I mean, if there was a gap, it wasn't unusual to see Chris Wood suddenly turning up at right back to fill the gap and all that sort of thing. So it was more than just being a striker. It was his football nous, I think, that Howe wanted him for, and he showed plenty of that. And the other thing is, he's missed a couple of sitters lately, but if you have a penalty shootout, who would be the first man that would grab the ball? Chris Wood. Nobody else would get their hands on it. He would, and that kind of confidence is good for everybody, particularly the young players. Seeing an established professional saying, "Well, I want that ball. I want to take that penalty. That's what I'm paid for." And bang, no doubt it would go in. And I think all of that was good in the dressing room as well. So I'm delighted for Chris Wood. Karius, well. He's shown himself to be, and that's why his period's been extended, to not, as I say, not just be a good goalkeeper, but I think also he's good in the dressing room as well, by the sound of it. When he speaks, when they interview him, there's a very intelligent young man comes out there, and also it breaks my heart to see how good looking he is. It's bloody terrible. Never mind. That's another issue. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy about that. The other thing is about the transfer scene generally, and I think Keith's absolutely right. Isn't it great that all the journos are guessing and anybody else is guessing when nobody knows? They're doing it their own way, and hooray for that. I mean, my history is of going to bed at night and getting up the next morning and suddenly finding Newcastle United signed somebody. I mean, I went to a match, FA Cup tie against the Mackhams, and they come on the field, and everybody in the crowd was saying, "Who's that at number 9 for Sunderland? Who's that?" And they had just bought Holden from Burnley, England international centre forward. Nobody even knew about it, but there he was on the field. No warning, no nothing. This is a whole different ball game. nobody knows, and they're all guessing like mad. I think it's fantastic. So, yeah, roll on. I can't wait for the great days that are coming, and even more as time goes on. So, yeah, I think there will be a surprise. I'm absolutely right. I think there'll be a centre forward, and there may be one, if not two, midfielders as well.
Steve, it's starting to move. We've had a long wait, but I get the impression as well, Newcastle fans haven't been panicking, which is rather strange, isn't it? In transfer windows, we're usually like, oh my God, what's going to happen? But it's been quite relaxed.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not panicking, but they're all watching, looking for aeroplanes flying into Newcastle Airport, aren't they? So I suppose that's a form of panic. But no, you're right. I mean, I think the form that we've had this season, one defeat in 19 games in the league, it has settled the fans to the point where we're just on cloud nine, aren't we? We're just looking at the performances, and we're just in awe. This is not what you expect from Newcastle United of old. I think the vast majority of fans are taking it quite cool. They're quite happy with the progress that the club's making. Well, they're delighted with the progress the club's making, but I think that they're happy with the way that the club's moving on, the way that the club's doing this business, the lockdown that there seems to be in terms of news coming out. The rumour mill will always fly around. But it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, you're just comparing Chris Wood there and Karius coming in and Chris Wood going. And I just looked at some stats there while you were talking, and we're all saying, and then there's a certain section of fan base who going, "Oh, they're delighted he's left." As you mentioned those two incidents, Steve, and you can't mix a player based on two incidents. The performance and miss against Chef Wed and the miss against Leeds, because I think the lad's done tremendously well for us, and everything that's been said so far, I'm 100% behind. But when you compare his record to a bloke that Man United have just signed in Weghorst, and you're looking at his record and you're thinking, there's a bloke who scored two goals in 20 when he was at Burnley in a relegation season. But their record in terms of goal scoring is quite good. Yet Man United, supposed to be a far, far bigger club than Newcastle United, go out and buy the Dutch equivalent of Chris Wood. and we go and we peddle Chris Wood to a team at the bottom of the league because we're going to get somebody better, or at least that's the expectation, and that's the hope. It's great football. That's what football's all about. It's this discussion. It's this compare and contrast. It's the conversation in the pub, the arguments you can have, sensible arguments that is, with fans online. And when you do those sort of comparisons and you start to look at how one club has a different policy to the other, but at the end of the day, they've all got the same end game, which is to try and win the league, or to try and get into the top four. So we could go out and we could spend another £60 million on a striker, and Manchester United decide that their best bet is to get a lad on loan, and we move somebody out. What a strange world, Steve.
It is. Mitch, transfer window, your take on the ins and outs so far? Very little going on, but it looks like it's going to heat up.
Been seeing it all along. The manager told you at the start of the window, January's a long month, and it'll be one in and one out. And that's not easy to organise, and that doesn't happen overnight. And it's almost like a chess game now about who moves where and which moves open up other moves. So, for example, Forest are apparently also in the running for a keeper, because their keeper's been ruled out for the next few weeks. So you've got to start to think if there's discussions going on there already over Chris Wood, what about Darlow? Because he would seem to be the odd man out. Adding Karius to extend that with bringing Dubravka back and locking those three down as well, 1, 2, 3. I can't remember when we last had a 1, 2, 3 as strong as that.
No.
And so that really does lock one position down for a while. Chris Wood goes with my thanks, and he did what he was brought in to do. And I hope we all don't have short memories about that, and that anybody taking glee in his departure, I think, isn't a good look. I know we had this discussion before we come on. For me, I think he goes with my thanks, and hope he grabs this opportunity with both hands. But also, it almost certainly means there's going to be an opening to bring somebody in, and by nature of the way they've conducted business, it's going to be an upgrade. That's what it's been all along. They've got one eye on FFP, one eye on the wages to turnover percentage, one eye on other matters, which is all making things interesting. But the long-term aim was still well ahead of the game of the projections that they wanted, that they said they would be happy with. We're obviously delighted with the progress we're seeing. And I think it would probably feel like a missed opportunity if we didn't upgrade a couple of areas this window.
I agree.
Yeah. And we certainly shouldn't be pressing the panic button. This was always going to be an unusual window. It has been so far. It will continue to be so. And I still wouldn't really genuinely wouldn't be surprised if we weren't active right up to the last few hours of the window, because when a right opportunity comes along at the right place, I still remain adamant PIF will do it. There is no budget, there is no set boundaries or barriers. It's about getting the right price for the right player, doing the right deal. And if Forest are prepared to help us out by taking wood off our hands, and that's going to ease a wage burden a little bit, and we're obviously going to receive a fee for the loan, but then if there's buy-in triggers that create a buyout as well, then that's how you do a loan. Not how Chelsea have done a loan, by paying a ridiculous amount of wages and having no buyout clause and just basically pumping money away because they feel they can just do what they want.
It's interesting you say that. You just reminded me. There was, I don't know, you saw the little piece in the press today saying that 7/8 of Europe's football transfers have taken place in the UK and England.
Right.
And they were doing a comparison between the leagues, saying how the Premier League's dominated, and yet of that 7/8 of the English transfer budget had been Chelsea. So we talk about lazy journalism sometimes in the UK, but there was another piece of lazy journalism from Europe, you know. It just goes to show this and how ridiculous it is.
Yeah, definitely does. Okay, as always, we have plenty to get through on the three amigos. Here is the day I met. The day I met, we'll ask you to send in photographs of you with famous Newcastle United player, manager, owner, whatever, and a couple of pictures here from Mozza, one of our regulars and one of our admin moderators in the chat. The day I met Bruno's dad, pre-Fulham match, which is a good one. And I also had this one, which I don't think was shared before, which is Mozza and Steve Harper. So thanks very much for those, Mozza. Keep them coming in. Send them to me or the lads on social media, and we will endeavour to show them on the show. Got to ask you, Keith, what on earth is going on at Chelsea? I mean, this week, you know, and I think that's the question on everyone's lips. You know, everybody wants to know, what on earth are they up to?
I don't want to sound racist, but it's the American model of, if you see what's quite significant is, you remember during the takeover, I was talking to a guy who was interested in buying Newcastle, John Texter. And he, you know, nice fella, and his model was to raise money via the stock exchange rather than his own money, and buy it in Newcastle. As he said, the fans wouldn't go for it. I said that, you know, I wouldn't ever get behind something like that because I don't believe in it myself. And he was quite adamant, and he said he was close with Crystal Palace and the deal fell down. It's amazing that there's been banners put up this week saying, "We don't trust you, Texter. We don't trust you what you're doing." And he is a nice fella, but his model is typically American. And that's where Todd Bowley comes from. They come from this model which the Glazers first brought to Man United, whereby you do work with the assets of the club. Think of the assets Man United's got in terms of stadium players, the worldwide appeal, the whole market media. Man United is enormous, and that's where we're trying to play catch up at the moment. Man City have done that, and they've got. When you look at Man City's cost pound brought in per player, they're spending about 60% of their money on players, and a lot of clubs are in the 90s. 90% of their revenue goes on player salaries. But Chelsea, it's just an amazing story, because Chelsea have got, first of all, there's 1.5 billion missing, so we can't get away from that. There's 1.5 billion of that transaction was supposed to go to the victims of the Ukraine war. We've all heard it, we've all seen it, but nobody's seen proof. If that money came through and was distributed to Ukraine, the very, very least it would do, the person who wrote the check out or transferred the cash would seek publicity for it. They would seek publicity on behalf of the British government that made Abramovich do it. They'd probably seek publicity from the Abramovich's sources that he's actually given his money up to the club. But Chelsea as a whole would seek publicity. The reason it hasn't been sought and the reason it hasn't been achieved is because there's money missing. So with that money being missing, is it still Abramovich's club? Who knows? Well, time will tell, because it will all come out the wash. But when you look at what Bowley's doing with it, it's like it is laughable, but he's going to get away with it. The reason he'll get away with it is because in FFP terms, they've got greater revenue per day. I think £1,800 per fan per day, whereas ours is near 300. So they've got that much more revenue on match days. They've got a load of money in from sales, because all these players Abramovich let them buy without any government. There was no governance on that. Nobody was looking to see what Abramovich was doing money-wise. It just all seems to, FFP just seems to be a post-Newcastle takeover, fanciful. But what Bowley's doing, it just seems that if you want your player to go, tell them that Arsenal, Liverpool, or Man United's after him. And then he just goes in and does what we used to call in the housing market, gazump people. He just seems to go in there and he seems determined that you can't buy anybody. But and some of it's done quite cleverly. Look at the Mudrich deal. He puts that over 8.5 years. So basically he's putting probably just under 10 million a year through amortization, which Steve Hasey's talked about a lot. And basically all that is done, it's in common words, it's called write-off. It's just how you write monies off. So if you get somebody for 70 million over 7 years, it's 10 million a year that you can write off. If you do that in normal contracts, it's typically, when you buy players on the wages they pay these people, 4 years quite a risk. And what they usually do is bring in somebody for 4 years, see if he hits the ground running, then renew his contract. At the 2 year stage, you're going nowhere, we're going to double your wages. But when you bring lads in, and Neil Mitchell has a great phrase, he always says to you, before you get carried away, lumping people up, I'll quote 2 words here, Henry Xavier. He always says that. And when you do it, Xavier came to Newcastle on big money, massive money, but they could never, ever find a home for him. And Chelsea, and I could even this at the minute, Chelsea's just give Hudson Odoi £150,000 a week salary. So that's why he's going abroad, because they can't get a British club to pay that kind of money for him. And Steve, you have every right to say what the hell's going on, but it's just a case of gazumping. It's panic. And I don't know about you, lads. You all sit here, and to me, you've all got a wide knowledge. We've got a lot of years watching football. Is it ever going to end in anything but tears? Because if you looked at me and said, in British football at the minute, who's the 2 teams that I think Man United will come again, I think Liverpool will come again. I think Chelsea and Tottenham are riddled with risk and debt. Tottenham's got enormous. Tottenham's got debts like Barcelona and Real Madrid. It's that kind of debt. Chelsea have just gambled everything. They've gone to the casino and they're slapping piles of numbers on single digits. They're not going black or red. They're putting crazy money down. And they reckon Mudryk is dynamite. They reckon he's one of the fastest players you're going to see. They reckon that Felix, when he come on and got sent off, they reckon he was dynamite. And when you put too much dynamite on a pitch, it's got risk of blowing up. And I just don't think that it's measured, and I don't think that it's sensible, and I'm pleased it's not Newcastle. As much as I'd love the excitement of these people coming in, it brings pressure. It brings fans pressure. George touched it the other week when he said, you know, when you put too much pressure on players, and I was thinking of people like Sean Onstaff, all you do is you get them to try harder. And George just said, he said, when people try harder, they don't play any better. They often play worse. And I think that's where Chelsea are. And I want to close, you let you lads have a say, is when you look at young Gallagher, you know, a lot of people say it'd be great in Newcastle. And they always say young Gallagher, they reckon he doesn't fancy it. They reckon he wants to stand and flog it out with Chelsea. But there's a lot of people like him who'll fall by the wayside. And you know, he was a dynamite when he went on loan to Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace offered 27 million, which is an enormous amount of money for a club like Palace, and they turned it down. But now, you know, he's getting a game. But I think Chelsea will be the first club in the Premiership. I think they'll have top six. They'll be the only team that's 3 managers in a season. I think Chelsea will have 3 different managers in 12 months. That's what's coming. And you know, is Todd Bowley the most likeable bloke? He might have them on side in a minute, but I don't think it'll last. I just say the whole thing going tits up.
George, what's your take on this situation at Chelsea? It's a monopoly.
I mean, Keith opened, or chatted just before we opened, Keith saying that they're going to end up destroying football. And that's the big danger, because at the top, the so-called top 6, you've got Tottenham with, my understanding is in the region of $1 billion debt. Chelsea doing all this mad stuff in the transfer market, and it'll only take one of them to go belly up, and the others will follow. It'll be like a pack of cards, like a row of dominoes. It'll just go bang, bang, bang. The other thing one is that young Gallagher. I mean, Keith's right. I said the other night when we were watching, he was just trying too hard. He wasn't thinking. Difference the other night when they played and they were winning and he came on, he was a different player. You could see the footballer instead of and he didn't get booked. He wasn't kicking everybody, whereas before he was, because he was wanting to make an impression of some sort while he was on. So I can see. But you're right. He is one of a number who, if they keep buying these players with huge fees, who will just drop off the wagon. In fact, they'll nearly end up giving them away at the finish, because they've got so many of them sitting around twisting their thumbs. I mean, the guy they brought in and set the world alight in his first game and then got sent off. He's sitting for 3 games, and it's going to cost him something like 3 or 4 million just to have him sitting on the touchline because he cannot play. I mean, it's madness, absolute madness. It just beggars belief. Bowley, I wish I could see an intelligent man in there, but I can't. He's just a bully with a fistful of dollars, as far as I can see. Right. And he's slashing it around at the moment. I think his wake up will come when the Chelsea fans realise what's happening, because I don't think they have at the moment. That they're winning at the moment, so it's not too bad. But when the Chelsea fans get sick, as I said the other night to the lads I was talking to on Wednesday or whenever it was I was on, saying about how we need to remember it was really the Chelsea fans when the European Super League was on the go who got off their bums and did something about it, and closed Stamford Bridge and shut all the roads around the stadium with blue flares and got the board out of the boardroom to come and talk to them. That saved all of us a lot of heartache, and And I think they're the people that will put Bowley in his place, because they realise that things aren't going well. How can they be happy that they see players on these extended contracts and they're going to get injured? If they get injured, which inevitably they will, and they're going to be wrapping up millions of pounds just sitting on the backsides, warming the bench. No, the fans will get sick of that soon, and Bowley will be in trouble. The other thing you said, Keith, was about the manager as well. The young man immediately below me said about 2 weeks after Potter was appointed, he'd be looking to get past Christmas, and you know, it is that's where we are, and that's sad for football as well. I mean, none of it's good. And as for going out and doing these strange deals, if you find somebody's Arsenal wants them, so they fly over and get them instead. Well, that's for Newcastle fans who know anything about the history of the club. Happened to us in the past. A little man called George Hurd, who was the hero of Scotland. Stan Seymour and his crew went up and did a deal with him. He was the best thing that sliced bread in Scotland at the time. And they came home clapping their hands. And while they were coming one way on the train, the chairman of Sunderland was going the other way to talk to Hurd and persuade him to join them instead of us. And he did. And you can imagine the lickings of a dog he used to get when he played at the Gallagher after that. So, you know, it's history repeating itself for people like me. But it's a great danger to football. That's the big point I'm trying to make.
Yeah. Mr. Hasty.
We've literally,
Steve,
I had a problem with me sound there. Yeah, muted it. The conversation has led to Bowley on more than one occasion on here, Steve Hasty, and it's been a weird few months as we knew it would be, but it just looks like it's going to get weirder, doesn't it?
That's right. I mean, what's Bowley doing? I think he's tried to guarantee to his fellow investors that they can bring instant success, and then I think he's arrived on the scene and gone, and this is how we're going to do it. Because let's face it, what Chelsea need to do is they need to continue with the success that they've had. And with the slate's been wiped clean financially because of the ridiculous amount of money that Bowley's paid. But when you look at what they've got, and this is what he's up against, I just jotted some figures down here. In 2021, they made £103 million out the Champions League by winning it. 2022, they made £80 million by reaching a quarter-final. This year, they're guaranteed another £81 million for being in the quarter-final. So straight away, you've got £264 million there. You want to blow Chelsea's bubble? Then you just sit there and think, you don't make the top four, you don't make the Champions League, you're not going to get anywhere near. Because if you don't make it this season, you'll not probably next either, because everybody else has risen their game. You're going to be losing potentially 200 million quid. If you don't make it for 3 seasons, then potentially you could be looking at 250 million quid. So that's out of his budget. But at the same time, and I looked at this. We all know they're allowed losses of 105 million according to Premier League. But in the Champions League, you're only allowed losses over 3 years of 65 million. So they're playing a massive, massive gamble, because I jotted them down. They paid 45 since Bowley came. He paid 45 million for Sterling, 33 million for Koulibaly, 55 million for Cucurella, 70 million for Fofana. He paid 20 million for Chukwuemeka, Selena 12 million, Casadei 12 million, and then Aubameyang 10 million. Zakaria, he loaned him for 2.6. Modric, he's paid 88. Felix, £9 million just on a loan. And then you've got Santos at 11 million and another Fofana for 10 million. So that's all his outgoings. That's all his incomings. And what they're saying is, well, I mean, you look at that, and if they stick all them in the squad, who's coming out the squad? Yeah. And they're going, well, we're going to sell people. You know what? If the rest of football wants to do Chelsea, then just don't buy any of their players off them. Leave them on the books. Just leave them there. Nobody buys their players. They've still got to play them. They're going to have to give them even more extended contracts to sort out their amortization. It could turn into an absolute nightmare. Or we could be sitting here in 6 months' time and saying, you know what, Todd Bowley's a genius. I suspect he's not a genius. That's all I can think. Because for me, it's monopoly football. You know, it really is.
But Stevie was a genius. Newcastle were going in for Felix at $3.5 million. So if he's a genius, why did he pay $9.5 million for the fee? Newcastle paying 50% of his wages. They paid 100. Newcastle getting an option to purchase. They're not. So he's not negotiating well. And the thing is, you say that side checks and people like that. If they come out, people aren't going to pay remotely close to what Chelsea paid. They're just going to bid them on it.
But and the other thing is, what you're saying, you know, would they have paid £9 million loan if the other clubs that were in for him were below them? I suspect not. Yeah. I think if it'd been Newcastle United sitting in 10th and were gone in with a £3 million bid, Bowley would have got in 3.5. Yeah. But for some reason, because we're above him and he's desperate to get, and it's the same with Mudryk, you know, apparently it was 55 million at Arsenal already splashed out. Originally 45, then 55. The ridiculous negotiation. Because it's somebody above them, they're going, right, well, we desperately got to spend this money because that's going to get us above Arsenal. That's going to get us into the top 4. That's going to win us the league. And you're thinking, what? This is the mentality. I listened to an article on the radio earlier, and people were talking about the Leeds manager and going, you know, he's a great tactician. He's a great theorizer of football. I suspect Todd Bowley is a great theorizer man of football finances, but he's never done it. And when you put a theorist in place and you go and put it into practice, you suddenly find it's not as easy as you think. And I think Todd Bowley's come in and is now going to find, oh, hang on a minute, what's going on? You know what? I don't really care that much. In fact, I'm delighted the way that they're going, because it shows that the farcical nature of football finance at the moment and the way clubs are going. I'd far better to be supporting a club that's doing it our way, and possibly even the way Man United are doing it, in terms of, you know, getting up there, reorganising their squad, looking at what they've got, trying to get with a coach who's trying to get the best out of what he has, and just making the odd addition here and there. Yes, okay, he splashed out a boatload of money on Casemiro, and we all laughed and said, 30-year-old, the bloke's passed it, the bloke's got no legs. But then he's gone the other way, and he's taken a loan player, as I mentioned earlier, you know, who couldn't even pull up the trees at Burnley last season, you know. So I suppose different people, different mentalities, different styles, different ways of doing things. And at the end of the season, that's when you find out who the good ones are and who the bad ones are. Who's success, who's failure. It happens in management. You can be a great manager one season and you can be rubbish the next. But I think in Todd Bowley, we've just got a joke on our hands.
Yeah, Mitch, you've been, you know, very honest about what you thought was going to happen with Potter, of course, at Chelsea. He's hanging on by his fingertips. It has to be said, but Bowley was always going to be a new breed of owner in the Premier League, wasn't he?
The minute he installed himself as de facto sporting director, there was alarm bells clank. And he strikes me like the character going to Harry Enfield's artisan bread shop, paying £25 a loaf because he saw him coming. You know, and that's what he's like. He strikes me as somebody who definitely understands the workings of this FFP monster he's bought, but doesn't understand the culture of football.
Yeah,
he thinks he can do what happens in the NFL. And I'll give you a straight example. Franchise quarterback Derek Carr at the Raiders. He's the longest serving franchise quarterback. At the start of last season, they brought Devontae Adams in from Green Bay, star receiver and big money. The dream team, they played together at college. We're reuniting the dream team. This is going to be our season. And their season's gone down like a wet fart. And what they've done is, 4 games before the end of the season, Derek Carr was removed from the dressing room to be no longer to be a distraction, and they installed a young quarterback in as the new starting quarterback.
Yeah.
And Derek Carr will be moved out of Las Vegas, the Raiders, over the close season, because the NFL, with wage caps, with a closed shop, with the money that the clubs and the owners have, the power that the clubs and the owners have, can manoeuvre players around very well still, even though they've got a strong players' union. It's the clubs and the owners who call the shots on contracts and things like that. What Todd Bowley's going to find is that it's the agents and the players who still have the power in our game. And so who he thinks he's going to sell his cast-offs to at an exorbitant excess to balance the books, yeah, right. It's not going to happen. People will trade with them, but they'll want to trade down.
Yeah.
The no, he's like the poker player who gets a pair of pocket jacks and starts jumping up and down in his seat because he's with excitement. You know, he's already showed his hand. And so everybody going into negotiation to buy one of their players or two of their players is just saying, no, I'm not going to pay that. I'll tell you what, you need some cash though, don't you? How about I give you 10 million, not 20? And so that's actually somewhere where I wouldn't be unhappy to see us going to do something like that if we feel we were getting a bargain. But either way, he, like I say, he strikes me as somebody who really does understand how the FFP works, but just doesn't understand the culture of football. Go back to where Keith started with 2 words: Henry Savia, sitting on big wages. We couldn't shift him. He was around like a Jonah constantly. Nobody wanted around. He didn't want to be around, but he wanted his pay packet at the end of every week. And so will these players at Chelsea, and their agents will be saying, no, you sit tight. Make them buy you out.
Yeah.
You know, or make them negotiate so that they pay some of your wages when you move on. You've got a contract, son. You stick by it. Bowley might understand FFP, but he obviously doesn't understand the implications of the Bosman rule, for example.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think there's a huge degree of naivety in the way he's gone about his business. And I think that's why somebody somewhere inside of Chelsea's got hold of somebody else and gone, will you take his flipping laptop off him and get him off Championship Manager and get somebody who knows what the hell they're doing in there? Because he's put them into a real precarious position, and it's those last 4 or 5 deals where suddenly they were putting the contracts getting longer and longer because obviously they're running out of FFP cap space. And so, yes, he understands how it works, but the implications of if one of those players comes on and has a stinker and never really recovers for the rest of the season, what are they going to do when he just digs his heels in and says, well, I'm not gone anywhere? And they could have a 25-man squad and then a 25-man squad of Henry Savia sitting around the training ground. And I'd be interested to see how that plays out, because I don't think any amount of shuffling money around the Cayman Islands will make that better.
There's a lot of shuffling going on in Spain at the moment as well, isn't there? When you look at Barcelona doing deals with Madrid, who are offloading players to Chelsea, and then you suddenly see that another player goes from Barcelona to Madrid, and then to Atletico, and you think, and there's a lot of this happening where players are moving within a year of being bought, and you think they've been top loaded, and now they're being bottom shifted. And for me, it smacks of somebody, as you say, like Bowley, they've spotted a gap in the financial rules, and they've manipulated and they're using it. And the sooner that gap or that hole is filled, to stop clubs doing this and just playing around among each other and helping each other out in that way, then
but Steve, we know it's effectively been going on for years.
Oh yeah.
And again, the other one I use all the time is David Luiz, subject to something like £350 million worth of transfers during his career, and he was never value on any of them. But by God, he certainly helped balance the books for PSG, Chelsea, and Arsenal at some stage. And you can't tell me that wasn't part of the money go around that they were very happy to do between each other to keep the wheels greased.
I don't think you might go back in time with me and Liam Kennedy during the takeover, released a story, and it ended up on the Tottenham fans' website, and it was where you remember it, and your lads are involved as well. And I don't know if you turn your head back to that, because it's quite appropriate that Steve Rates brought this up tonight. Todd Bowley was the guy behind the Tottenham bid to try and get PIF to buy Tottenham. It was Todd Bowley who was involved in that.
Yeah.
So you think to yourself, like, how long has he been hovering around to do this? It didn't really matter him which club he did it at. All he wanted the PIF wealth, and he wanted their football club to apply the American model. But when you go to the American model, it's one of mortgage. And somebody said to me the other day, who was a lawyer, he said to us, Todd Bowley, he reminds me of someone who's spending money that's not his own. And I think it's very clever. It's a good analogy, that, because you've seen people drive a car that they've got on finance or they've got on lease. They don't seem to clean it or wash it or look after it as much as when they used to buy it outright for cash. But when somebody spends somebody else's money, which I guess what Todd Bowley's doing at the moment, it'll all end up in tears. It's all. Yes, I'm certain. When you looked at Felix the other night, he looked cracking, and I'm certain Mudryk is going to do well. They're going to have good games. But like Neil Mitchell hits on it, what happens if one of them is involved in an adverse court case? You've seen Man City players being charged with rape. You've seen Sunderland players go to jail for rape. When that happens and somebody's on millions a week or millions of pounds a contract, that's what Neil's talking about. Is you've got to, what you're talking about doing is, it's all well and good laying money out and saying we can afford it. I think you can until they're not available, they fake an injury, they want to be aware, and somebody says, reduce your value and we'll buy you. Chelsea haven't been hit with a single bullet yet. This is all just, you can spend it. They have nailed the FFP argument, and this is what's happening when it all looks rosy. But will it last? There's 5 on 8, don't seem to think it will.
If you want to get an idea of how much and how long-seated American interests of one form or another are in our game, look at how many clubs throughout the entire football pyramid, from Premier League to Division 2, have payday loans to MSD.
Yep.
And they nearly ended up with Sunderland out of one of them not so long ago. Because one of the clauses in all of those payday loans is, you default on this, we own your football club. And what on earth would they want so many payday loans like that with so many clubs from as high in the table as Watford and as low in the table, I think isn't one of the League Two clubs in hock with them at the minute? I can't remember which one it is. Either way.
Yeah, Southampton were another one. Sunderland, Southampton, Derby. I think there's about 5 or 6.
I thought they was going to say one of the clauses in the payday loans is if you default, you have to own Sunderland.
Well, that would be.
I'll take a reverse payday loan.
It's like when you show your bully special prize. Hey.
This is what you could have done.
3, 2, 1.
Take the money back, please. Take the money back.
Roll out the speedboat.
All right, we're nearly halfway through the show. It is time for Tweet of the Week. And thanks to Zora, she sent quite a few in this week, and other people. Newcastle United, gimme, 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 of course, when Isak scored that song that echoes around their home and away grounds now about Isak. Great to see him get on the score sheet. Davey Hodge says, stop naming your kids Paris and Brooklyn when they look like Peter Lee and Barnard Castle. Some other do have them. Very good, Paul. The combo there. Any Blondie fans here? Professor Frank McDonough, the Blondie roundabout is open. Blondie roundabout, one way or another. I'm going to find you. I'm going to get you. Very good. Uber fact, what's the worst thing you've ever been told during sex? Gary replied, now then. Fulham, it's a wicked game. Isak. Very good. Very clever. One of the best NUFC related tweets of all time, said Zara. At Newcastle back in 2008, I felt we lacked flair, so I asked Mike Ashley to go out and get a Brazilian. I'll never be able to unsee that. And man, someone at TikTok accused me of stealing a stand-up joke. And when I asked them from who, they sent me a clip of someone doing a joke, and that someone was me. Brilliant. Some people just don't pay attention. Mark said Newcastle not beating teams like Fulham and Leeds at home is what will cost them the top 4. Yeah, that went well, Mark. And this one from Lee. 21-22. Played 19, won 1, drawn 8, lost 10. What a difference a year makes. Beautiful symmetry. Played 19, won 10, drawn 8, lost 1. Fantastic. Well done, Eddie Howe. And the lads. Tom Lynch says, me Twitter timeline's full of dilemma tweets regarding the Manchester derby. Who do we want to win? My thoughts are considering where we were a year ago. What a dilemma. Sitting in third, fretting about whether second place will open up a gap or if fourth place overtake us. NUFC. Yeah, welcome to the new world of Newcastle United. Different keep calm. Gan Raj, how are United? That was circulating a bit over the weekend. I did like that. And this one, Everton fans turning on Pickford. Farhad Mashuri, if you didn't want to become a museum, why did he keep the club dinosaur? Newcastle accused of buying safety with £95 million in the first window of ownership. Chelsea have spent £430 million so far in their first year of new ownership and a 10th. Yeah, and that has gone up since that was tweeted out as well, of course. Paul Lindsay, Nick Pope faking injury so Bruno could get strapped up. Yeah, I did notice that. That was very, very good. Bit of shithousery, as the lads would say. Walton Mag, match day. How are the Mags? That was great. I love, you know what I'm like from the old photographs, and that was fantastic one. So thanks for sharing that. Bruno, very sad about today's injury. Hopefully it's nothing serious and that I can do what I love most as soon as possible. Liam then replied on a Google search, can I donate my ankle? Brilliant. Cool. Alexandra said, remembering fondly a date I was on recently where we walked along the seafront and the moon was huge and I said to him, let's make a wish. I wish that we'll always make each other laugh and be happy. And his wish was that his team won the league this season.
Fair enough.
They're wrong with that.
Newcastle United have conceded in just one of their last 9 matches, and then just a photo of a wall from Fun88, which is very apt. And yeah, Ryanair said would need to charge Potter for those bags. Wow. Unbelievable, isn't it, when you look at that? Like. And Raoul, some drunk fella started biting me ear off on the train again yesterday. I just cracked on with me work. Eventually he said, I love being ignored, me. So I turned and the first thing that came out was, mate, I'm not here to be popular. I'm here to compete. And this one from William Hill. All the results, of course. The Newcastle United have the longest active unbeaten run in top 5 European League football. How are the lads? Amazing. Yeah, it is absolutely fantastic. And last one for this week is this one. Breaking. Everton are in talks to sign 4 strikers, 1 a postman, 2 a railway worker, 3 a nurse, and 4 a teacher. More to follow. Thank you, Jimmy. We'll give you that one this week. I'm not sure if I've done that one. Oh yeah, good crowd from Fulham today. I think that's the most Fulham fans I've ever seen, and I've done Fulham away. Excellent stuff. Keep them coming. Thanks for your contributions. As always, we will feature some more next week. Staying on the financial side of things, and the Deloitte Football Money League was released this week, Keith, and Newcastle edged into the top 20 with their revenue up by 179.8 million. Well, let's not quibble over a few thousand. Let's say 180 million. Top of the financial revenue is Man City, of course, 619 million increase, and Real Madrid in second, 604 million. Liverpool, 594, Manchester United 583. Got to go a couple of places down. You find Chelsea in 8th, 481 million. 9th, Tottenham 442 million. Arsenal 367 million into 10th place. West Ham in there, 15th place, 255 million. And then you've got Leicester and Leeds 17th and 18th respectively, 213 million, 189 million. Everton 181 million, just above us in 19th place. But all in all, Newcastle on an upward trajectory in the right place, in the league, but also the right place in the financials.
The first thing we need to do is get that to Todd Bowley. So I'm sure he thinks it's a spelling mistake on his, because I think he thinks there's a 1 in front of Man City's figure. For Chelsea, I think he thinks it's about 1.6 billion turnover. So if he's down in 10th, it seems he's good with the finances, he's good with league players. But what concerns us, and I think the first thing we've got drawn is, why is Everton a couple of million above us? Why is West Ham sort of 65 million above us? And it's quite, if people aren't work that out, it's because, for example, all the advertising at Newcastle over the last 10 years or so was free. It was all done for £1 million, whereas the advertising at Man City's, the same contracts, were hundreds of millions. And so if you put someone like Peter Silverstone in, who's now working with Adidas, we're told, he'll be now working with people on ground naming rights, and he'll be now doing things like stadium naming rights. Just by him sitting in a room means you don't got to sell or buy any players. You just need to bring the right companies at Newcastle and say, if you want to put your name there, it's that much. If you want to put your name on a shirt, it's this. And we've been doing deals which are more championship model deals. So if you look at what Fun 88 paid for the main sponsorship of that shirt, it was peanuts. It was probably the same kind of money that the new setup have got for the sleeve. So that's how far behind we are. I think that Newcastle can go out this summer, and if they put the likes of Saudi Airlines in, and they put some PIF contacts, and people from outside like Adidas, I think Newcastle could leave the likes of Everton and West Ham behind by next summer, the summer coming. But I think all the deals are over a season. And I think out of that, we'll see Newcastle abandon the deals with Castori. I think we'll see Newcastle abandon Fun 88 deals. And I think they will sell more areas of the shirt, more areas of the stadium, and different training facilities. The new training facility, I think they'll get sponsorship quite quick. But the promising thing for me is that where Newcastle's lagged behind, when they went to Coca-Cola and signed a deal for their new energy drink, that's the kind of deal that would have gone to Leeds or even higher up. It's like a Man City type of deal or a Man United type of deal. For Newcastle to get it was quite remarkable. I just thought, Christ, if that's the stature, because PIF always said they'd rather it was outside money, not theirs, that brought the money in, and they could use their own money for other things. But if you're bringing the likes of Coca-Cola as your first one, then the likes of Noon, who are enormous, as Neil will tell you, in the Middle East. I believe it's just a temporary thing. If you could get any money, people pay high to find stocks that's going to rise. If you could ever invest money on a turnover that's going to rise, then by God, put your money at Newcastle. But it is remarkable to think that you've got Everton that's had 3 seasons on the spin where they've been trying like hell to get relegated. And they're on the 3rd attempt. In the bottom 3 at the moment. So you've got to give hats off to Everton. They've set their stall out what they're going for. But with a bigger turnover in Newcastle now, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal because some of the deals will be in there. But I just look at it and I just say this figure. I don't think we're going to be at 600 odd million in the foreseeable future, but I think that's where we're heading. And I think we can surpass Man City if we do this right.
George, your take on Newcastle getting into the top 20?
Well, can I remind you all where we were before Mr. Ashley took over? We were in the top 10. That's where we were. And just the revenue streams just disappeared because he wouldn't get involved, and the bits he did get involved in were penny pinching, and like he says, the advertising and all the deals he almost gave were shirt sponsorship away. I mean, it was ridiculous. So we've come from a very low base and we're catching up quite rapidly. It's interesting, the numbers that were read out, that Keith read out, is that the other thing about the ones that are above us, it's not even servicing their debts. You know, they got lots of money on there, but they're not even servicing their debts. You know, that's the other side of it. We don't even have to look over our shoulder for our debts, because we know the people that own us could pay them off like that if we had any debts. So, and the other bits and pieces, Everton's going to have a new ground which they ignored. The UNESCO People's World Heritage Organization. So Liverpool is no longer a World Heritage City because of Everton's football ground, because they put it in a place that the World Heritage people didn't want. You know, they're all side issues, but I think quite important, and shows the mentality of the people who are running the clubs. That, you know, it's we wanted it at any price, and if they were at the top, you would understand it, but they're not. Then Keith says they're going to be lucky to stay up again this time, and you know, it beggars belief that a club that's wanting to be where they want to be couldn't even let their directors come to the game the other night in case they were in trouble. I mean, do we need that in football? I don't. I think that's dreadful. But I think we'll be slowly catchy monkey, and suddenly, as Keith says, we'll be up there amongst the top 10 again, without any doubt.
Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. Quite agree. What fascinates me, I'll go to something that Keith said earlier. Keith said that Silverson would be doing some great deals and things like that. What he's failed to mention was that he said, with Silverson in the room. Well, with Silverson in the room, it means for the first time we've got somebody in the room, because we've given everything away for the 4 years. That's the first thing. So straight away, we're all of a sudden on the front foot. Commercially, you mentioned Everton there. I've just jotted down Everton's, the people who sponsor Everton. 9 out of 10, I've never even heard of them. You know, companies that you've never heard of. I've heard of Boxed. That's about it. Socios, Lucasade, Fan Breaks, Fan Curve, Turmeric Company, Devontae Tires, Christopher Ward Watches, Fanatics, Stake.com, and Hummel. I think there's 3 of them that I've even heard of, which for me...
But Christopher Ward Watches, one of their sponsors.
Yeah, they're the club watch sponsor.
Well, bugger if I'm buying one of them. So that.
Well, it just... what seems to be amazing that there's like companies with little to no background or of, you know, companies that don't appear on the surface to be massive corporations, yet they're lashing out big money, you know, or allegedly.
Other point maybe is worth making is I suspect that a figure will include the money that Usmanov was putting in that now has to be removed.
Yes.
And so there's probably at least 30 million to come off that. I think people underestimate the impact of his association with the club. Absolutely. And that having to be withdrawn now. And I think that's another reason why they've got the problems they've got. They've based all of their little sort of fine-edged FFP calculations on money that now they can no longer bank on or use. So, yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, I think the other aspect of Newcastle United is that people have probably been looking at Newcastle for the last sort of 12 months thinking, well, what direction are they going? Do we want to be associated with Newcastle United? Are Newcastle United really going to be successful? Is this a vanity project that for Saudi Arabia? Are the Saudis in it for the long term? And all the noise that's come out and all that those potential sponsors are starting to see, they're all going, whoa, hang on, we want to be on that boat. We want to be part of this. There's something in this for us. Yeah. And that can only be for the advantage of Newcastle United going forward. We're now an attractive proposition for sponsors.
Yeah.
The very fact that Adidas is being mentioned, to me, says an awful lot about the status that sports companies like Adidas see in Newcastle United again. you know, we had that status back in the 90s for the work that Sir John Holt, mainly because of we were referred to as the entertainers. You know, they did their first deal with Adidas. When the second one came, it all started to roll forward, and the success started to come on the pitch in terms of performance, in terms of Newcastle being out there and into Europe. And that's what the big sponsors like Adidas are looking at. They're thinking, right, it's a global thing. It's not just a provincial. It's not just, you know, how many shirts are going to be worn around Newcastle or around Northumberland or parts of Durham. It's way, way beyond that. This is international. And Adidas are going, whoa, this is thing. And I noticed it, Mitch, when I was in Dubai with you, and we'll walk around sports shops. And obviously you go to the mall and there's an Adidas shop and there's a Nike shop. But then you go to the other sports apparel, and it's only in the other sports apparel shops that are not brand orientated but cover the brands. That's where you suddenly start to see Newcastle United shirts, and it's quite disappointing when you go into the Adidas shop and you see all of the teams laid out, and it's the top teams in Europe that you see laid out, but you don't see Newcastle United. That's going to change, and that's all for the positive if we get the sponsorship from Adidas. If it's Nike, again, similar. You know, they go out and they go big style worldwide because they have their own stores, as well as selling their merchandise in other stores. And that's another big factor. So it's all positive. But as I said right at the very beginning, the very fact that we've got somebody in the room doing the negotiating who knows what they're doing all of a sudden is the finite for me.
Well, can I add on to that, Steve? When we had somebody else in the room, when we had Adidas shirts and we were getting entertainers, it was a little man called Freddie Fletcher. Yeah. And when he was in the room, we were selling more black and white shirts in Glasgow than either Rangers or Celtic. I mean, that's how ridiculous it was, and all that disappeared. And the other thing about the people that you've mentioned who are sponsoring Everton, they're just the sort of people who will disappear like snow on a dike if they get relegated.
Yeah. Or the companies will disappear before they do.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry,
Mitch,
Neil.
You're Mitch. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to see the difference in commercial aspects of Newcastle United out here, the only place you could find Newcastle United shirts once in Dubai was the outlet mall. They used to go straight to the outlet. You'd never see them in any of the normal malls under Puma. It was always Puma outlet at the outlet mall. And that, as Steve says, is going to change over time and quite quickly. Commercial revenues, if you want to see the damage of the Ashley era, when Ashley took over, our contemporaries were Man City and Tottenham. And Tottenham are now 350 million ahead of her, and Man City are 500 million ahead of her. But that gives you an idea of what opportunities lie going forward for us to expand. And I think that's the thing that excites me the most, is we're already kind of overperforming where we're at, punching above our weight, really. What on earth are this lot going to do with an additional 500 million in the commercial income to play with? It's mind-blowing, really. But that's what the Ashley years did forward. And while Everton fans seem to be getting nowhere near the treatment we got as fan base when we were just asking Mike Ashley to spend a bit of cash and look after the club properly. Man United fans are being given leeway for how terrible they've had it. It's such a trophy drought. God, if that's a drought, what have we been through? You know. So I think we again get the thin end of the wedge as a fan base. But it's going to make it feel all the more sweeter to me when we're in the position that PIF can, and I'm quite sure will, take us to from the commercial side of things. The commercial side of things, the opportunities are legion. Don't underestimate the regional ties. The Noon deal for me points where they want to go regionally. That deal is purely about raising the profile of Noon across the whole GCC. They're there to compete with Amazon, and that's a hell of a difficult job, by the way. And so they're using it's this synergy it's a two-way street. The better we do on the pitch, the more attractive we are. And I mean, Steve would tell you, one of the people he and I have dealt with on various takeover things over the years is somebody who has been briefly on the board in Newcastle United under Mike Ashley, and somebody who did a lot of work with Coca-Cola across Europe. And the words he used us at one point was, under Mike Ashley, Newcastle United is a toxic brand and nobody wishes to associate with them.
Yep.
And that's the path Everton are walking down at the moment. I mean, the point my dad makes is quite right. Some of those people will be off like a shot if they get relegated. There's no doubt about that. But we are now no longer seen or perceived in the outside world as a toxic brand. We've got rid of the toxicity of being associated with Mike Ashley Sports Direct and these many sports brands of former glory that are now effectively defunct and churned out under a different, or churned out in his Sports Direct shops. And so that puts us, when it comes to Silverstone doing his negotiation, in a very, very different atmosphere and in a very, very different position to turn around and say, right, we need these deals to be better, we need these deals to be more, and we deserve this, because you're now talking to a team that currently sits in the top 3 of the Premier League. Thank you very much. And don't underestimate the difference of that.
It's interesting what you say there as well, Mitch. I was just mentioning Everton. I just thought I'd have a glance here at who sponsors West Ham, because obviously that's the other club that people are going to talk about. And you look at the West Ham sponsors, and obviously they've got the main one which we see on the shirts.
And Summers.
You know, not Anson. It's Betway. Obviously, we all know what Betway are.
The Beijing Dildo Corporation.
That's right. And then you've got Umbro. You know how it is. After those two, after Umbro and I didn't mean the Dildo Corporation and the other one, but after Umbro and Betway, you then go into someone called Scope Markets, who are an online trading partner. Never heard of them. Then you've got Trustly, which is a banking partner, which deals with a cardless society, you know, whatever that means. And then you move into Fetch AI, who's that artificial intelligence partner. Maybe they could bring him in and give Moyes a hand, because Moyes needs a hand as well, doesn't he? Then you've got Huber, which is the logistics partner. Yeah, fair enough. I can understand a logistics company wanting to get involved because there's big money to be made there. Then they're into Leica Mobile, a mobile phone company. And then you're into SkyCloud, a virtual private server partner, whatever that means. And then you've got Monster Energy. Well, we've come across them before. And then you've got an e-wallet partner. So that'll be useful. And then Eva Air, who are Taiwan's one of Taiwan's leading airlines. I don't know how that fits in with the UK, but obviously shows global partner. And then you've got the
Vietnam Vibrators.
Yeah. Global Reach, Acronis, Cyber Payments, Cyber Protection, the number of asset manager partner, and then they've got another football gaming partner, and then they've got a travel partner, and then they've got Heineken. Now, for me, some big companies there, but this again, is this new money? Is banking and finance the new money, or artificial intelligence? It's totally different now, isn't it?
You've got to look across the scope of football at the minute. There's 2 or 3 companies that have actually disappeared after agreeing sponsorship deals, particularly in the crypto side of things. And if you believe in that, I've got some magic beans to sell you. But you know, that's quite clear that when the bottom dropped in crypto, some of those sponsorships couldn't be followed through and that to be taken off shirts. Yeah. I think the sponsorships do change in nature. I'm not averse to having an artificial intelligence partner. I think Sunderland probably need one of them, to be fair.
Get them on in the Premiership.
It's all artificial.
West Ham might lose theirs. I mean, Betway's their main sponsor. I think legislation might stop betting companies sponsoring. It's interesting when I've been online. There's been reported the last 6 minutes that Bild is saying that Mukoko at Dortmund might have renewed his contract. So that sounds like a bit of a blow, because he A lot of people are optimistic that Newcastle might get him. But more close to home, Chris Wood's contract is said to be with an obligation to purchase. I think one of the big clauses is them staying in the Premier League. I think that's one of it. I think the other one's on scoring goals. But his obligation is at 15 million. So that's quite interesting. That he kept us up. He weakened Burnley, and it would only cost us a net 10 million. It's quite interesting figures that and it's good. I think it's good money for a 31-year-old as well. People might say we paid too much, but
I think the player to keep an eye on to replace him, by the way, is Juram.
Yeah, I think so.
I'd just have a little feel in the new water.
Yeah. His agent's apparently been in town today. That's been well out on social media. But there's rumours about Diaby, whoever it is. I mean, Eddie Howe values Chris Wood. He's 31-year-old, so whoever comes in, you think will be younger, and hopefully they'll get a good spin at Newcastle. But I think it's somebody that's got to fit in with the squad, because we've got Isaac and we've got Wilson in them positions. We've got Maxi wanting to get back. Eddie Howe rates Murphy highly. Miggy's playing the form of his life, so it's nice. It's good. It's a great thing to be in, and it's good that we sat here and we aren't sitting crapping ourselves that Todd Bowley's got hold of his nana's checkbook.
Yeah.
I
wonder which artificial intelligence partner we'll have.
and we're already safe from relegation.
Yeah. Well said, John. I don't know if Chelsea are, mind.
No.
Time for two lookalikes. As always, a smattering of some that look like people, some that don't. James V and Steve Hasty.
We had that one. I understand.
No, that's a different photo of Steve Hasty.
I understand that one.
You understand that one? Okay, well, they do get better. From Steve Wilkinson.
Steve's on the right.
And the left.
And in the middle. And on the wall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Steve Hasties. From Steve Wilkinson, that.
Hey, I thought he was my friend.
NUFC Revolution have sent these two beauties of Steve in various outfits on his best chair in the house. He says these could be the end of Keith.
It could be.
And this one from he says this isn't Steve Hasty. He says it's Keith Patterson and his Steve Hasty wig.
Right.
That's hedging your bets, isn't it?
Oh, my
Jesus.
Wonderful photo there, James.
Who does that with a dog? Oh, my God.
And this one. So I can get Keith laughing, he says. There you go, as requested. This one, the Marilyn Monroe kind of stance. Very nice. And this one, Hasty enjoying his day out.
What the hell?
Christ.
Slightly different hair there. I just stuck this one in, Steve, because I haven't seen that photo of the dog before. And then earlier on tonight, you stuck this one in the WhatsApp chat.
I did, but that wasn't from me. That was in a totally different context, wasn't it?
Oh, right. I thought you were sending a look.
That was John's dog after wandering around for 7 hours around the training pitch.
Oh, right. Here's Steve playing 5-a-side.
That's pretty close. Actually, that could be me.
In net. Stephen Kennedy says, damn, Mackems are even copying Steve Hasty now. When you're the prettiest girl in the entire gender-neutral bathroom, he's put. Very funny. Those are my views, or NUFC Matters views. Those are Stephen Kennedy on Facebook. And this one from Wayne Bennett. Love the earrings, Mr. Hasty.
Jealousy gets you nowhere, Wayne.
And this one, Ash Hannon, he says, morning, Steve. I see Steve Hasty made it onto the BBC. Could we possibly put it on Lookalike? Many thanks. I love the show, Steve. It's a good start of the weekend. Steve, what are you doing? That's from Ash Hannon. Very polite as well.
Someone saying that looks like Steve Hasty.
This one from Rita Oxley. Steve Hasty on the night out.
Cool. Yeah. Very cool.
And another one the morning after the night out.
That's probably true as well.
Thanks, Rita. Okay. We've heard of M&S. This is the musical version as Mitch and Steve.
That was
Yeah,
brilliant,
Albert.
that, like.
You can tell it's Albert. You can tell it's
Brilliant.
Albert.
Very good.
And this one, he says, you're right, 5 Amigos are in this shop, but can you name them? Mitch, me, Penman, Hasty. Brilliant. Where's Keith? Oh, there's Keith there on the left of me, yeah.
Aye.
Brilliant. Great stuff, Albert. Well done. Thanks for that, mate. A lot of time.
Whereabouts? Which
goes into these. I'll send you it. Soda Pop Kids says Roland Rat and our Prime Minister.
Yes, I can't vote for that one.
And George Graham and Billy Hill.
Billy Hill Gangster.
Hey, good,
Pretty
aye.
good. Steve Wraith, you're changing your name to Steve Ghost. The only Wraith is Essex. Thanks for that one, Jacob. And Rafa Benitez and Renee from Allo Allo.
Hello.
This the new one.
Straight out of Everton, that.
Martin Taylor and Alan Partridge.
Yes.
Very good.
Knowing me, knowing you.
Mark Hughes and Ailsa from Home and Away.
God almighty.
Steve Bruce enjoying his retirement, says Andrew. That was a dancing video. You need to check that out, Andrews. Getting back to WWE, I always knew Big Stu Penman would be good in the ring.
That's class, aren't they? That's really.
That's another one of Albert's weird videos. This one, good morning, Steve. I hope you're well. Thank you. From Alan, he says, here's one for the lookalikes. Eddie Howe back at Bournemouth part-time. Just see him in the background there.
They're right.
So you just look like he was on the bench there, but you paused your TV to get that one. Stephen Kennedy says, Sir Keith moonlighting as a singer in an old people's home. The man's talents are limitless. Very, very like them.
Good surprises.
And a lookalike is Steve Wraith back when he once went on a game show and when he had hair. Thanks, sir.
Yeah.
Little bit of
I
a look.
still like it.
It doesn't like now. Wraithy's delighted with his new wig. There's some kind of fascination with me having hair and wigs this week, as you can tell. Thanks, Albert, for that one. Again, that was another dancing video. And Roy sent this one, Albert Finney and Keegan.
I can see where he's coming from.
It's the eyes. Definitely the eyes.
Yeah.
Last few. Have you started playing the piano, Steve? No.
It's good, that, like.
But it is, yeah. Vince sent these last week. Look at like you and Ben Jacobs checking in on Toon transfer action.
Oh,
wow. Jamie Vardy, Mrs. and Lawn.
Oh, 2 grasses, man.
Yeah.
2 grasses.
Very good. And look at like me doing security for George Mitchell and Steve Hayes.
brilliant.
Thanks, Vince. Rob Hanaway said this one, Dwight Gale, and a lad from a film called All Quiet on the Western Front.
I tell you what, I saw that. I thought, wow, that is
uncanny. Thanks for that, Rob. Why are you on Man United mugs, says Sam to me. Yeah, it's not me. It's that man. And not Newcastle related, but Everton fans plan to sit in protest. Oh, yeah, that was the lookalike that Jimmy put in. He said he did put that in at the bottom. Plan to sit in protest after the match with Southampton. Fair play to them. It was bad enough sitting through 90 minutes. And this one was said was a couple of times, but thanks for that, Dougie.
Brilliant.
Definitely very good. Loads of money. Enfield's loads of money and Todd Bowley.
Hey, on 2 levels, that.
No.
Aye.
And Gianfranco Zola and the Fonz from Tom Dixon.
Aye.
It's good, that.
Giovanni Trapattoni and Lloyd Bridges.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
Rita comes in second place with the Marco Silva and the Kitty Catcher one.
That is Kitty Catcher, by the way.
And the winner this week, Daniel Day-Lewis and that Manua from Roger Cook. Pretty good, yeah.
Very good.
It is very good. And we'll just chuck this one in for final. There we go. That's all from lookalikes for this week. I know people love
I hope the RSPCA don't watch this platform.
They probably don't. Okay, Newcastle United take on Crystal Palace. It's live on Sky, 5:30 kickoff on Saturday. And as always, we've got Toon Stato to give us a little insight into what we can expect.
What an incredible season. Newcastle are unbeaten 14 games in the league, only for the third time in their entire history after 1950 and 2011. But the previous two times Newcastle did it over the course of 2 seasons, while now is the first time that it's within one single season. If we go unbeaten against Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park on Saturday, we go 15 for the first time in the club's history. Also, for the first time in history, Newcastle have 5 consecutive clean sheets at the top flight. Having said that, Nick Pope has 8 consecutive clean sheets when you count also the 3 league games that he took part in. Newcastle and Crystal Palace have already played twice this season, both times ending 0-0. You haven't had 2 top flight teams meeting each other 3 times in a season and ending 0-0 since Everton Wimbledon back in 1992. Alexander Isak started his career with 3 goals in 4 games, or 262 minutes, which is faster than Alan Shearer and Callum Wilson, with only Les Ferdinand ahead of him, scoring his first 3 goals for 174 minutes. Let's see what the guys will do on Saturday. At Selhurst Park in the Premier League, we have played 11 times. We have won 5, drawn 4 and lost only twice. One of them a very heavy 5-1 defeat against Alan Pardew's Crystal Palace. And the top stat I left for the end, Crystal Palace have lost 8 consecutive home games on a Saturday at a 5:30 kickoff since 2015. So the odds should be in our favor. Away the lads.
Great stuff, as always, from Andre. And it's over to our friend Paul Scunnymag.
Good afternoon, evening, ladies and gents. Scunnymag, Paul here with your away day guide to Crystal Palace. There's no underground nearby, despite there being a tube station called Selhurst Park. It is a long way away from the ground. Your nearest overground stations are Thornton Heath and Norwood Junction. We would normally come into Thornton Heath travelling from the north. You can get to Norwood Junction, it's a bit of a pain. But Thornton Heath is closed due to engineering works and such. And also the strike action. So you're probably not going in that way. But if you do, there are pubs right next to each of the stations. I'll get onto them in a minute. Parking. If you're driving down, there is a Sainsbury's right next to the ground. The postcode is Sierra Echo 256 X-Ray Bravo, and your what 3 words for the entrance is Bump Policy Index. Up until very recently, I had free parking. It may still have. Please check when you get there, though, just in case. I don't want anyone getting a ticket or clamped or anything and going, you told me it was free. It was free for 4.5 hours. You could park in there on match day. Spaces were limited. They may have changed it. They probably will at some point in the future because it'll get full on a match day. But unlike most London grounds, there is street parking available around. The locals use it. To the north of the ground, there are quite a few main roads and you can park up on the side of those. No restrictions. But again, check local signage and see what the locals are doing. Follow them. For your street parking, if you head roughly to the what 3 words of Wrong River Gates, there are streets around there that you can park on. For those who have been on train previously and come into Thornton Heath, the Railway Telegraph was the first pub you would come to. It's away friendly and it'll still be open. I imagine it won't be as busy as usual because of the closure of the train station, but that might be a good thing if you want to get served faster, you want to get more beer in, great. And if you parked up near there, even better. The postcode for the pub is CR7 7JJ, and your what 3 words is Alien Menu Dress. If anybody has come into Norwood Junction and managed to get travel that way, the pub you'll be heading for is the Shelverdine Goat House. Really weird name. Ex-Wetherspoons pub. They sold it on in 2016, and that explains why it's got a weird name, I guess. prices are probably not going to be as cheap as they were, but again, away fan friendly, and it's the one everybody heads to coming out of that station. Your postcode is Sierra Echo 25 6 Echo Papa, and your what 3 words is before trains spill. And then right in between the two, about the same distance from the ground as that one, from the away end, is the Prince George. That's my personal favourite. I've been there a few times. They get it ready for match days really well. They clear out all the tables and chairs, standing room only, so you can get more people in more comfortably. They have loads of bar stuff on, and they even, I was going to say when the weather's warmer, but last time I went it was pretty cool, rain forecast, and they had an outside pump, and there was serving beer outside to Newcastle fans in the sort of fenced off pavement area, which is fantastic. Postcode is Charlie Romeo 7 8 Lima Echo, and your what 3 words is curvy Grace loaded. And when you're ready to head to the ground, it's a 5-minute walk or so from either of the last two pubs, and you will find the away section on the northeast corner of the ground. Your what 3 words for the bit of street that you need to be on to get in the turnstiles there is Royal Shows Blaze. That's it from me. I hope it was useful. Catch you again soon.
Great stuff, as always, from Andre and from Scunny Mag. So Newcastle United travel to Selhurst Park Saturday afternoon, 5:30 kickoff. Live on Sky Sports. All the away tickets in the away end sold out, 2,700. Bit early because we're pre-recording for team news, but we know that Shelby and Matt Targett are both out. Bruno and Elliot Anderson, well, that'll be announced on Friday. So by the time you watch this show, you will know whether they are likely to feature. But it's unlikely Bruno will. We expect him to feature in some way, shape or form in one, if not both, of the semi-final games against Southampton. Kieran Trippier also sustained a cut to his foot during Sunday's win over Fulham. He's expected to be okay. Callum Wilson heads to Selhurst Park looking for his third goal in as many visits as a Newcastle player. So keep an eye on that. Crystal Palace, well, James McArthur, Nathan Ferguson and Joachim Anderson are all out. And they did play midweek with a 1-1 draw against Manchester United, managing to grab a last-minute equaliser, denting Manchester United's opportunity to get further ahead of Newcastle. So they did us a little favour. Things haven't gone too well for Palace at home. They've won 4, drawn 2, lost 4. As Andre mentioned, 16 goals conceded in those 10 games, which is a Premier League high, along with Southampton. They've kept 1 clean sheet in that period. The referee is Craig Pawson. He's had Newcastle United's games 3 times this season. 2 draws, 1-1 with Bournemouth and 0-0 with Manchester United. VAR is Jared Gillette. Okay, Keith. Every game's important now, and you know Newcastle want to keep the Premier League ticking over before concentrating on the League Cup semi, don't they?
Yeah, I was talking to Johnny Allen when we were playing last week, and you know, it certainly looked like it was going to be a stalemate. And I know at half time, like, well, it's funny when the penalty was cancelled out, Johnny said to me, he says, "I'd take a draw, you know, like, because after that, you know, it looked for all intent and purposes that Mitrovic would score and Newcastle would be fighting back to try and salvage something." Johnny said, "Take a draw." And I just said, I understood why he said it, but I just thought we need more than a draw. And after all the heroic performances through the year, I know there's teams like Leeds and Bournemouth is one of them that can bug us and, you know, fizzle out with a draw. But I just said if we get 6 points today against these Fulham and next week against Palace, I think we'll finish the season top 4. I think these are massive. I think the cup will be a nice distraction. I think we miss out on the FA Cup, so we'll have breaks. I think all that will be taken care of. But I think there's a lot of the teams at the top are playing each other. You know, coming up soon, and there's games where they are playing against each other. Tottenham, Man City, and I think Liverpool play Chelsea soon. You know, and you look at them games. Whilst they expected more from Spurs at home in a derby against Arsenal, I do think you will see some funny results coming soon. And I think when we can go and get 6 points off these, then, you know, we've got like West Ham to come. I just think it stands us in good stead, and I think that Newcastle can, I don't know, I think we can kick on. I think we can make it. So I don't see Chelsea catching us this year, full stop. I don't see Liverpool catching us this year. I don't see Spurs catching us. And I think we'll be in a dogfight with Man United and Man City. And I think everybody's trying to catch Arsenal. So for me, these are the games we've got to win. You've got to beat the Crystal Palaces. You've got to beat the West Hams. You've got to beat the Fulhams. And I know it's not easy. I know every game is difficult. But if we just start to feel like this, what's it like for the teams? You know, like what's it like for Man City, where everyone that plays them is a cup final? So don't underestimate. Everybody will be trying like hell to do something with Arsenal this year. And I'm not too sure the wheels won't come off. You know, I can see some team going after and having an unbeaten run, and Arsenal getting caught up. So it's all there to be done. Arsenal's in a strong position. We'll go down to Palace with a cracking set of stats, and Andrew's just pointed out there, you know, they haven't won out the last 7 5:30 kickoffs on the Saturday. It's a jinx, and I think Newcastle will turn them over. They've conceded a lot of goals, so I'm going to go with the Penman 3-1.
Okay, George, what's your take?
Straight away, I'm going to say I'm expecting a nice, straightforward 2-0 win. And the other thing is that there was one of the players, the Palace players you mentioned, was injured. Is it MacArthur?
MacArthur.
But yeah, you know how some players play well against certain teams. Well, he always plays well against us. He's a proper pain in the backside when he plays against us, home or away. And I'm not unhappy that he's not going to be around. So that's quite good. And the other thing is that they're struggling at the moment, and it's a good time to hit them, and good time for us because we're not likely to have Bruno, I don't think. But then again, we've got to play without Bruno if he's unfit anyway. But it doesn't matter. I think we've got enough even without Bruno to get a 2-0 win, and that's what I'm looking for. And as everybody's saying, it is important. These are the games we can win, so that we can bolster up for against the big ones, you know, and take a bit of a breather against the Crystal Palaces. So that's what I'm looking for. 2-0 win.
Steve?
Sitting in 12th place, not having the best of seasons. As Keith said, conceding goals. It's conceded 27. Only scored 18. They're one of those strange teams that they can produce a good result when they want. They've got some dynamic, some exciting players. Elise, got Ed Ward, who they got from Celtic, who's not getting a regular game. Obviously, they've got Zaha, which that he becomes a pantomime villain when things aren't going right, doesn't he? But you know what it is, that it could be that Newcastle go there and turn them over, come away with the 3 points. Or it could be after Wednesday's game against Man United, it could be the start of something for Crystal Palace. They're that sort of team. Always noisy, always quite a vociferous crowd. They get behind them. I'm not sure if they're still getting behind them with the results that they've been producing. There's obviously disharmony within the fan base about the gentleman that Keith mentioned earlier, Mr. Texter. They feel as though they're not getting the investment that they should be. They're not happy with things. So when you hear that and then you compare it with the way that we are as a fan base, 100% behind our club, then it just gives you that sort of little bit of an edge. I'll go for a 2-0 win, away win to Newcastle. I think we'll keep the momentum going. I think we'll keep them quiet. I don't think we'll concede. And I'm saying that on the back of the fact that we have the best defence in the country. And how many times have we been able to say that? You know, a few times this season, but in past seasons when we've gone to Palace, it's very rare that we've ever said that as we head to London for an away game. So, as I say, 2-0 win, come away with the 3 points. hopefully no injuries, no problems. And then we go down to Southampton on Tuesday, and we get the first leg of the semi-final over and done with, and we have hopefully a carnival atmosphere for the return leg.
Last, but by no means least, over to you, Mitch.
Under the era, Palace have always seemed quite well drilled and quite well organised. But since the restart, they've had some shockers at home.
Yeah.
That 2 sent off against Fulham, if I remember rightly. They got pumped at home off Tottenham and looked absolutely awful. Lost at home to Southampton. They're talking about the draw against Man U, but it was a last-minute free kick that got them the point. You know, that's not a huge statement. So there's something obviously not right. I don't think, and we owe them one for the draw up here. The VAR decision, that was a nonsense that kept points off with. We owe them one, and I think if I was Eddie, I'd be reminding the team of that the minute they run out, as they're running out onto the pitch. This lot owe you one. We really do. And I think if we can get a win at the weekend, it will be as big a statement as the draw at Arsenal.
Yeah.
I think we're laying a marker down that says, we're here and we're here to stay. Keep the momentum going. I don't think it'll be easy. I honestly think we'll be made to fight every inch for it. But I personally think we will take the 3 points. And I don't care how they come. To be honest with you, I really don't care how they come.
No, me neither. Well, I think Newcastle will win.
And I have a dice today.
Go for it. Didn't want to.
And the dice says, Crystal Palace 0, Newcastle United 1.
Oh, very good. Wow. Take that.
Yeah, I'd take that, and that's what I'm going to go for. 1-0.
1-0.
I'm going to go for an Isaac winner. So yeah, fingers crossed that is the case. Okay, last couple of bits and bobs to do this week. We haven't had Elliot, so here he is. A genie granted me one wish, so I said I just want to be happy. Now I'm living in a cottage with 6 dwarves and working in a mine. Thanks, Elliot. And Julie, even though it's a pre-record, I have remembered. It's an email, fan mail this week. Steve Wraith, fingers, cats, and then Snifsy's fingers. Thanks, Jack. And it was John's reply at the bottom. Hi, Jack. Thanks for your input. Enjoy your day. Brilliant response from John Justice Allen there. But that is Troll of the Week. Thank you very much, Jack. Lovely.
Just had some news in the rumour that Chris Wood's loan fee is 5 million. There's been a fee to Newcastle. So at 5 million, and if purchase thing is 15, by God, that would be good business. You know, they think he help keep us up for 5 million. The other one is at West Ham. They reckon there's trouble down there because they reckon Moyes has been on the phone shouting and bawling, saying, "I said signings, not signings."
I've got to play the music again, but Julie. Keith, if you tweeted that, you know, I could have used it next week as joke of the week and replaced Elliot for the week. But as always, lads, it's been a pleasure. Keith, George, Steve, Mitch, absolute pleasure to spend a bit of time with you.
Great to be with you, lads. Great to be with you.
See you all again. See you next week.
Take care, lads. Bye-bye.
Cheers, everyone.
A big thank you to all our sponsors, as always. Thanks to Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com and our website skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Garden of Healing Dispensaries, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists. You can find them at thegohd.com. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, which are handmade in Cumbria. and you can find them at mrvickies.co.uk. If you want to make an order, give them a call on 01768 210 102 or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to Blowhole Breweries, you can get a selection of beers, and the cans are in the design of the old Newcastle United entertainers strips. Blowholebrewery.co.uk. Thanks to Melly's Carpets and Beds, laying our reputation one recommendation at a time. The best quality around at the cheapest prices. Melly's Beds and Carpets.co.uk. Email sales@mellysbedsandcarpets.co.uk or give Melly a call on 01670 632 216. And thanks to United Group Travel Limited, UK Coach Holidays in Morpeth, 01670 362 460 or mobile 07957 141 654. Graham, your driver, Beverly answering your calls and looking after you on your tour. Some great deals coming up there. Get yourself onto the website to check them out. Thanks also to Media Arts, who do all of our videos and help us with the technological side of things. And thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. If you want to subscribe to the channel, then hit the subscribe button below. Hit the thumb up, which is the like button, which does us a big favour with the algorithm. And click share. Share it to Newcastle United Facebook groups or Twitter accounts or your own social media to help our community grow. And if you want to join the channel, hit the join button. And for as little as $1.99 a month, you can get some members-only videos and chances to win some fantastic prizes. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and the rest. Don't forget as well that we do events through NUFC Matters. And this one is the next event coming up, Friday the 24th of February, an evening with Newcastle United legend Steve Howie. Friday the 24th of February, Tyneside Irish Centre, and tickets are available at £50 from newcastlelegends.com. If you also go onto Voucher and search for the event, you can pick up a bargain on there. Don't forget, we also support the food bank on this channel. www.nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk is where you can find the Matchday Bucket. You can make a virtual donation to the Matchday Bucket 365 days of the year to keep helping the food bank in Newcastle.